Radhe Radhe. On Sunday, January 16th, 2022, Mummy and I are here to present a recap video of today's Bhagavad Gita study session.
Radhe Radhe.
I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen and take a look at what we covered today. So we had a few quiz questions, including a new style, which is to do with an audio clip. So certainly would like to encourage everybody to go back and try that again or try it for the first time. And then we covered chapter 4, verses 31, 32, and 33. Chapter 4, verse 31, the first instance, I believe, of where we see Sri Krishna stating the word nectar. Mummy will in some time explain to us a phrase that contains that in Sanskrit. In terms of the catchphrase, we talked about seeking sweet scraps. The irony, in fact, of remnants. Yet here, in this case, the remnants being leftovers of what we offer as sacrifice to God. Those remnants are, in fact, the grace, the gift, the prasad of God, and absolutely sweet and nectarian. So in our text, chapter 4, verse 31, we discussed performing sacrifice, which we now know is a secret. We've understood that in the past few weeks as Sri Krishna has detailed to us the various kinds of sacrifice and the few material examples with a divine intention that Swamiji has explained are, of course, offering food as bhog to God and then eating that later, or purchasing clothes, giving them to God, offering them to God, and then wearing them later. Along with the example of Uddhav from the Uddhav Gita in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He's saying that he would only eat, smell, wear, live in, or talk about objects that had been first offered to God. The important part we mentioned also is reading this entire sentence or fragment together, which is by accepting the remnants as your prasad, the prasad from God, only then Uddhav would easily conquer Maya. Just by itself, I will easily conquer Maya is not possible. We are not able to overcome Maya without the grace of God. Chapter 4, verse 32, very short and a very brief paragraph for its commentary. Sri Krishna stating that all the various kinds of sacrifices have already been explained in the Vedas. You pick the one that suits your nature, and of course, that helps cut those knots of material bondage. So again, the important aspects here are that there is a wide variety of human natures, different kinds of people and personalities. The good thing is there is not one set of sacrifices or instructions, as they say, one size fits all. That's not the case. There are many kinds of sacrifices that Sri Krishna has outlined in the Bhagavad Gita. And as Swamiji said, you pick the particular yagna or sacrifice, particular or suitable to one's nature, and that will help you be released from material bondage. The other very important aspect, of course, is the common thread of devotion. Devotion and the offering of everything as a sacrifice to God. So that was chapter 4, verse 32. And I think the catchphrase was no knots. Again, no here with a pun on the other word, no. If you have knowledge, then there are no knots. In knowledge, we can seek to cut the knots of material bondage. Finally, chapter 4, verse 33, work onward, reach knowledge. This actually, I didn't get a chance to mention in class, but similar to a couple of weeks ago, if you look at the first letter of each word here, it leads to work. So W-O-R-K. Work onward, it's always about work, but it culminates in knowledge. Very, very important English word for today, culminate. That entire end result and consequence, that all the different parts of sacrifice lead to knowledge. Work never ends. We always continue to do work because of our gunas. But now we know that it is all as part of a sacrifice, not a mechanical act, but in knowledge. So that really is the essence for chapter 4, verse 33. various kinds of rituals that are mentioned. We talked about Karam from the Vedas, but it's about being above and beyond those material, mechanical acts or tasks. And now we see in Sri Krishna's own words that anything that's performed as a sacrifice in knowledge, it is superior to a mere mechanical task. So we had that for chapter 4, verse 33. Mummy, I'll ask you if you have any Sanskrit word or phrase instead you would like us to learn, and any other comments you would like to add.
Yeah, today's phrase, Sanskrit phrase, very important one, is Yagna Shishtamrita Bhujaha. That means they partake of the nectarian remnants of sacrifice. So it's the ambrosial, amrit, ambrosial food. That is what it becomes as a nectar once we offer it to God, and then we partake of it as prasad. And the same thing refers to grace, that without God's grace, we cannot achieve much in life. God's grace or prasad is very, very important. And then I'll move to verse number 33, where Saint Kabir's doha is given. Yes, Saint Kabir's doha, Mala pherat yug phira na man ka pher, kar ka man ka dari ke, man ka pher. So man ka means man ka, your heart, your mind's beats, you have to rotate. That means you have to have control over your thoughts. Keep it away from worldly affairs. Keep it away from this maya, this material energy, and rather bring it to God consciousness. That is what we have to learn. And then another Kripaluji's example from Bhakti Shatak. So again, we have to not worry about liberation. We have to worry about attachment to God, with keeping God in our heart and mind. That is how we can, with all these spiritual practices, we can try to discipline our mind, control our thoughts, and get our mind attached to God, so that we can move faster on this path of spirituality. And another important thing is Sarvam Karma Khilam. In verse number 33, it is very important that everything, all we do, that culminates in knowledge. So it's better we learn and we take wisdom earlier in life. Then our journey will be smoother and shorter. Otherwise, we'll keep on doing different kinds of action work, and we'll keep on creating reactions to them, karmic reactions, and then it will take us many, many lifetimes to really learn the knowledge through experience. So it's better we learn the knowledge and wisdom through Bhagavad Gita, and then our spiritual growth process will shorten. Very soon we'll be able to have control over our mind, and we can attach our mind to God. So everything culminates in knowledge. It's very, very important.
Yes, absolutely right. Again, the importance of the word culminate as well as knowledge. And in fact, we made a reference, I guess, to chapter 4, verse 24. Before the sacrifices were listed, it was about us learning from Sri Krishna that we are seeking to view everything as God. The offering, the ladle, oblation, the act of offering itself, all that is to be viewed as Brahman. So that is really the knowledge that one is talking about when we finish up here in chapter 4, verse 33. Now, Mummy, towards the end of our class, we did something a little different today. Just can you briefly outline that with the participants?
We did different. We asked them to list or talk about their experiences, what kind of sacrifice they do, or what are the spiritual practices they do.
Indeed. And we heard a variety of examples, starting off with actual sacrifices, with curtailing one's diet or intake, offerings made to God, but also in the more other senses in terms of studying as an act of sacrifice, yoga, lots of different examples. So, I mean, it was great to hear from all of the various participants. And finally, in fact, we'll end off with a small homework exercise. And that is, we mentioned many times today, of course, that in the past few weeks, we have been hearing about Sri Krishna outlining the various kinds of sacrifice. So the question is, how many kinds of sacrifice has he mentioned? And just make a list for yourself what those sacrifices are. So when we have next week's class on Sunday, January 23rd, 2022, then we'll hopefully start off by getting a quick summary of those various sacrifices listed by Sri Krishna. And also, as I said, hear the number of them. With that, thank you so much, and Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.